What it do, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm so excited to bring you guys another video. This is a very chatty get ready with me where I'm really just talking about mistakes and that I made when I was a beginner in makeup, and then things that I would give you recommendation wise or tip wise in your beginner realm of makeup. And even if you're not a beginner, maybe you just need a subtle reminder as an intermediate or even as an advanced makeup owner and lover on these are certain ways to kind of get things more affordable, figure out who is the best person to follow, stuff like that. Like I said, I will be doing this full face and I really kind of like how it came out today, so I hope you guys do as well. Of course, always give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. If you aren't already subscribed, I would love it if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the fam. But otherwise, let's just go ahead and get into it. Today, what I wanted to do is talk about some of the mistakes that I personally made as a makeup newbie. So if you did not know, I pretty much started putting makeup on, I don't want to say actively, but working on my makeup technique and, learning more about makeup right after I graduated undergrad, which was around 2016. So it hasn't been, even 10 years. It's been under 3 years, so about 7-ish years that I've been wearing makeup, and I want to say about 5 years or so since I've had my channel. And really, in that first, I would say 2-3 years, I was very, very kind of naive and trusting when it came to the opinions of reviewers. And at that time, there was also a lot of rhetoric coming out about how makeup influencers and reviewers weren't really disclosing what was sent to them, when they were getting paid to talk about a product, stuff like that. I'm sure that played quite a bit of a role in my innocence, if you will, on, what to buy for myself and what not to buy. But I will say there were a lot of mistakes that I could see people making now that I kind of wish I knew about. So the biggest and first thing to know about is just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And I know that that sounds really basic and really duh, but for me, if there was a YouTuber that personality we got along and even skin type was very similar, regardless of the skin tone, if they were recommending the product, I always just kind of assumed, well, if it works for them, it's going to work for me. And for me, I've learned that lesson very, very, I don't want to say harshly, but I have learned that lesson time and time again now, where I see that a lot of the YouTubers that I do follow just coincidentally happen to be of lighter skin tone. I find very few darker skinned YouTubers that actively talk about independently owned makeup, and that is the category of makeup that I prefer to purchase from. It's just a personal preference. And so for me, if I can't afford to buy the product, or if I want to see if the product is good prior to launch, I'm going to follow and support those people who are getting those opportunities. And to my knowledge, at least right now on YouTube, a majority of them people that are of a lighter skin tone than me. And so I find that sometimes I'll pick this product up and it may be very, very pigmented on a lighter skin tone, but you put it on my skin tone and it looks like it's not pigmented because it's not enough pigment. There's not enough binders. There's not enough opacity to the actual product to show up on my skin tone. So that's definitely the first kind of oopsie-daisies that I had to teach myself to correct in my mentality of listening to these YouTubers. Just because it works for them truly does not mean that it's going to work for me. And very kind of off of that, just because it doesn't work for the YouTuber doesn't mean it's not going to work for me. Really listen to what the YouTuber is saying. And for me, if the YouTuber is not describing the product, why it works, why it doesn't, why they like it, why they don't, then that review is not helpful for me. And that comes into play when you have, all of your perfect items, or you are set with the foundations that you want, but you hear a YouTuber talking about the Juvia's Place, the foundation, and they're stating how the Juvia's Place foundation is a really good medium to high coverage, like tinted moisturizer. It has a very satin-like skin type, all of that. And if those are trigger words that really make you interested in a product, yes, of course, listen. Yes, of course, hear them. Yes, of course, watch the video. But if you already have, 2 to 3 of products foundation wise that fit that category and you don't wish to buy anymore, then you should keep that in the back of your head. You should prepare yourself. Or if you only have light coverage foundations and you've been wanting to bring in a medium to full coverage foundation, this is where the review of a product, where they literally tell you what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent about the product for them and how they see the product on them, is truly helpful. Very kind of, once again, connected to that is watching more than one review. Just because I say that one product works great for me does not mean that it's necessarily going to work great for everyone. And that's very much similar to YouTubers, influencers. Watch multiple people apply these products, especially in this day and age where a lot of products really aren't selling out and just going away quickly. You really have the time, at least I would say a month of time, to really dictate if that product is something that you need to bring into your collection. And then that way, when you do make that purchase, it can be a very informed and kind of conscious decision and not something that you feel overly rushed to make because you're really excited or whatever the situation may be for you. Another rookie mistake that I just really did not think about until, honestly, very recently, when I've been thinking about this topic and all the things I shake my head at myself for doing in the past, is not asking for samples. Samples are key, specifically with foundation. And I would say get a sample before you buy it. You can go to Sephora and get a sample. Now, to my knowledge, Ulta really doesn't do samples like that. And honestly, I would recommend you to go to Sephora and get a sample over even getting the samples that they automatically put in the what's it called? The free samples. Those samples typically are foil samples, and you really don't get the best kind of application. You can't use the product multiple times, but if you're willing to use your points, those point perks, they start to get a little bit bigger, so you can at least try the product a couple of different times to see if it's a type of product that you would benefit from. And that's really the key when it comes to samples, testing out the product before you spend your money to know if it's something that is going to be beneficial to you, because you're the only person that genuinely knows if it's going to work for you and all of that. Another thing that I think for me, I really didn't pay attention to or even give credit to is your skincare. I'm telling you, skincare is key. It is so important. And if you really don't take the time to get your skin where it, I don't want to say should be, but at its best or moving towards its best, products that you think don't work for you, well, they're not, because your skin isn't kind of at its peak. And so what I would recommend is, if you're really interested in makeup, get your skincare correct first. Yes, get certain products in whatever categories of makeup you are personally interested in. But at the same time, I would strongly recommend that once you've gotten at least one, maybe max 2 products in those respective categories, really hone in on your skincare, because you'll see once your skin changes and you don't have maybe as much hyperpigmentation or acne scarring or acne, whatever it is that happens with your skin type, you will see that the products that you already purchased will work differently on your skin tone. And then from there, you can really learn more about the types of products you like, etc. And this is where A lot of people like to say that they don't want their channel to be kind of like the shopping network, but I kind of differ. There's a difference between watching the shopping network and getting information from the shopping network, or watching the shopping network and buying everything that you see on the network. I want you to do the first, of course. I want you to watch people's channel, watch all of the products that they're showcasing, listen to how they're describing the product, and decide, is this something that I think I want on my face? Do I want a bronzer that's going to give me a more skin-like finish, so that people can kind of have to really think like, is she wearing makeup? It kind of looks like her skin. I can't really tell. Then find a product, one product that you want, try it out. I would say, honestly, go through the whole thing. Try your best to get through the whole thing, if not hitting pan. Once you hit the status, if you will, on a product of hitting pan, you really know that product. You know if that product is going to work for you, if it doesn't work for you, and you will know why. And then from there, you can move forward trying to find products that do or do not work for you. But I will once again continue to caution that I think there is something to sticking with the drugstore, at least for the first year. Now, the drugstore now is completely different than what it was when I was coming in. So I found that it was really hard not only to find products that worked for my skin tone, like pigmentation wise, like blush products, but also foundation matches were just god awful in the drugstore, in my opinion. And so I felt like I had to go to these high-end, mid-range brands to get these basic products to learn about this makeup and to move forward. And so that's what I would really say. Just really start with the drugstore now, in my opinion. You really can start there. Even if you can't physically go into a store, you can find the products online, take the time, really research them. Like I said, a lot of products nowadays really aren't selling out like that, and you can really be the critical. You can be the one to say, that's a little too expensive for me, or they don't have a wide enough shade range for me to want to support it. And you can even look into the background on these brands. Really, you're the one that the brand is trying to sell their product to, so make them sell it. If you're not happy, if you're not interested, move on to the next one, because there will be another brand. Best believe there will always be another brand who is trying to get your money, trying to sell you something. So really find the products that work best for you. I mentioned it before, but not all of the YouTubers that I follow have my exact skin type and my skin tone. And for me, at the point of makeup kind of knowledge that I am at, that's okay. But what I would recommend is at least find a handful of people who are your skin type and your skin tone, if not one or the other. That way you can kind of dictate whether the product potentially is going to work for you. Because it's really hard, in my opinion, to get that knowledge from a beginner when you're just looking at products online. There are many people who've talked about it where brands will make things look ridiculously darker than they actually are, or ridiculously lighter than they actually are on the website, on the swatches, wherever, so that they get more people purchasing their product. And so always remember that the brands are not on your side. The brands are trying to sell you a product. But find a YouTuber that has those two qualities, like I said, the same skin type, the same skin tone, that is on your side, that's actually showing you the products, really giving you the nitty-gritty, because that will really help you dictate what is worth spending and what isn't. Another huge kind of error that I made at the beginning of my makeup journey was shade matching. I've gone through the gamut where I thought I was this undertone, I thought I was that undertone, I thought I was this depth when I'm looking online. I go to buy it and then I receive it and I'm like, what is this? This is not my skin tone. So I have gone through the gamut, the whole kit and caboodle when it comes to that. And what I would recommend starting wise, A lot of people tend to err on the side of matching your chest or décolleté. This is something that I didn't originally do, and that was a error. Now, I will admit, matching your décolleté, in my opinion, at the beginning, it just didn't make sense because of the fact that I was not doing all 10,000 steps, where even if my foundation looked lighter at some points for me, the bronzer added the depth and the concealer lightened it even more. Like, I wasn't doing all of that, right? I was doing very basic steps, and even then the color tone of the bronzer to the foundation to the foundation, all of those products, the range that I now have is a lot different than it was when I was beginning. And even it was a couple of years ago, because a couple of years ago I had a wider kind of disparity, whereas now I'm really sticking closer to my skin tone, and I'm going a shade or two max above and under, my skin tone for my foundation. I got to keep working. But what I will say is, if you do start with just matching based on your chest, if let's say you do like or want to add bronzer, then you can find a bronzer that genuinely is going to work for you. And I find that in doing that, you potentially could have a wider margin or a wider variety that you can actually use. Now, once again, bronzers have definitely come a long way. They're not just, the two shades that they used to be. And in some brands, they haven't changed. The some brands, it is still the two bronzer shades. And, it is what it is on that. But what I do, like I said, want to say is that the key to really getting good about makeup is learning from people who have made those mistakes. And there's very rare times where I hear somebody say that they go based on their chest or their face shade and not their chest. So learn from my personal experience, right? So what I found is, if I was using a foundation that matched my actual face shade, which is darker than my chest, I would end up sweating, or my oils would produce throughout the day. Because if I did not mention, I am combination oily. It's not as extreme as it used to be, but I still am quite oily throughout the day. And what would happen is, the combination of my foundation being darker, and on top of that, the fact that my bronzer was always very red toned, because at that point, that's the only type of bronzers that you could find for darker skin. All of that with my oils, my whole face looked very dark and very red after like 5-6 hours. But what I have learned is that if I use something that matches my skin tone, it just does not appear that drastic of a change, And I mean, I would love to hear opinions from you guys down below. If you guys find that once your oils kind of attack a foundation, it does kind of, I don't want to say oxidize, because it's not oxidizing. It's like my oils kind of darken and make the foundation look heavier overall. And so that's why the pigment darkens on my skin. It is just something that I have personally noticed, and something that, to be honest, I didn't get better about until this year. This year is really the year where I got very critical about my foundation matches and, what type of matches I want. And I'm honestly really happy with the matches that I have been making lately. I feel like even if I decide to wear a V-neck, whether I decide to wear, crew necks, sweaters, whatever it is, I never have to worry that my foundation does not match my chest, because it does. It does. And I always tend to have foundation matches down below, so feel free to check them out in my description box. And that's something that like a lot of old school YouTube does and still did and still I believe do. So definitely like search. Like that's one thing that I did at the beginning. Once I realized that people were doing that, I would search a foundation that I know matches me And eventually you'll find a YouTuber that has that exact same shade. And then from there, you can determine what your shade is in a new range because they've already figured it out. So definitely another really key thing that I think everybody should know. So that's shade matching, like matching the actual shade of the foundation. But once we get into undertones, that can be a tinge bit tricky. Now for me, I'm not gonna lie, I can be lazy. I can be very lazy. There's so many videos out there that would say, oh, if you have this color veins and if you have this and that, then this is, girl, when I tell you, my eyes glaze over, and I mean glaze over when I would watch those videos because they're so long, and even if they are short, it's like something that like I can't tell you. Like the ones with the veins, I don't really have visible veins, so I can't tell you what color my veins are to figure out what my undertone is. And even if they did explain it, they explained it in a way that I never really understood. I didn't understand. It did not click for me. Now, I don't know if, well, I can tell you this is not real science, so I will just tell you kind of honestly, in my experience, I just went through, the whole experiment. It was truly just an experiment. But there was somebody at my current job that was saying it makes sense that your undertones are aligned with your sign, your like astrology sign. So I am actually an earth astrology because I'm a Capricorn. So not saying that that's why I have what I believe are olive undertones, but I do have what I feel very confident at this point is olive undertones. What I would say personally for how to choose your undertone or how you think your undertone plays, what is a color or a type of color that you get a lot of compliments on? Every time I wear mustard type colors, even olivey type colors, I get a lot of compliments. It doesn't matter the type of product, it doesn't matter who is around me. I get compliments on those types of products. And I think it just is because it just bounces off my skin, right? My skin just radiates a little bit more than it may have with any other color because it just works. So that would be something that I would kind of recommend. Look at what types of colors you get recommended, and then once again go back to one of my earlier suggestions. Get a sample. Get a sample from Sephora so you can see, because even if I truly am olive, that doesn't mean I'm olive in every shade range. Shade ranges are completely different depending on the brand. The names are different, the undertones are different, the spaces or the jumps between colors are different. And so you really have to see what you are with whatever respective brand you are interested in purchasing from, and then jump from there. And then I think the last thing that I want to say, and this could be a tinge bit controversial, but it is what it is. Don't be afraid to return. Do not be afraid to return. I am not somebody who likes to return. It's just a personal preference. But if you only have, $100 or whatever your budget is for the month, and you did all of your research and you tried your best, and like, let's say your shade match is wrong, but you like the product, return it. Return it and get the product that you want. Because in the long term, you're not going to use whatever the product is that you like. Even if the color is off, you're not going to use it nearly as much, if at all, because the shade or the product is not exactly what you were expecting. Just get what you want so that you can have it. And then I guess very kind of loosely tied to that is, if you really want that Marc Jacobs bronzer, save up your money to get that Marc Jacobs bronzer. Don't go for the dupe. Because at the end of the day, there's a reason you were really interested in that Marc Jacobs bronzer. I understand you may not have the money for the Marc Jacobs bronzer, but that just means you get to save now so that you can reward yourself later. There's definitely something to a dupe, and I completely understand those who only buy dupes of products that they actually want. Because some people truly don't want to spend that money or that amount of money on a product. But what I'm saying is, if it's just the fact that you don't have the money right now, but you actually still want that product, you're going to end up spending more money because you're going to end up buying the dupe just to realize you want the real thing. So my camera cut me off because the battery died. But basically what I was saying is that I think it's more important for you to get the product that you actually want, even if you have to save a couple of months to get there, or whatever the length of time you have to get there, in order to actually know that you're going to use the product. Otherwise, you may buy something that is the dupe and still want the more expensive version, and then end up spending more money because you're buying the dupe and the more expensive version. So those are a couple, quite a few actually, just recommendations or tips that I wish I personally knew when I was a beginner in this makeup and beauty industry. I really didn't even touch the like scent or beauty side of things. So if you're interested, definitely let me know, and I can definitely do another video like this, or maybe a little bit more where I'm just sitting, already have my makeup on, and I'm just listing off the items. That way it's a little bit more streamlined. But I hope either way that it was really interesting and enjoying for you guys to watch me create this makeup look. All of the items that I used today will be listed and linked down below. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.